You want to do it? So with the Hebrew songs, I would play a couple, but I probably wouldn't sing along.
I think we're doing a live broadcast right now. I think we're broadcasting.
That's okay.
Good morning and welcome to New Thought. We're here today and we have a very special treat. We have the music talent and the scholarly guidance of Woody Plaut, who's going to share a little bit of music. We're going to start that way today.
This song is a song that was the favorite song of Yitzhak Rabin, Prime Minister in Israel, who was assassinated when he tried to make peace. It's a song about people settling the land and going up on the hill and building a house, and then war interferes. But there's always the quiet of the Sea of Galilee, where there's a boat resting in the waves, and then there's this smell of salt in the air. And then a war comes in, and then once again, the children of the original family go up on the hill and they build the house. And still the boat is resting on the waves in the Sea of Galilee, and the smell of salt is still in the air. It's called Chorshat HaEucalyptus, the grove of eucalyptus.
Thank you. Let's begin with a reading from the Science of Mind magazine. My name is Marie Claire, and I'm your facilitator for today. And we're going to have a reading from Margie.
The Search for Heaven. Hell isn't a place to go to, it's a case of mistaken identity. We forgot who and what we are. That was by Carolyn Myss. The solution to every problem is within man. The healing of all disease is within man. The forgiveness of all sin is within man. The raising of the dead is within man. Heaven is within man. And that's from Ernest Holmes. In one of his parables, Jesus describes the kingdom of heaven as a treasure hidden in a field. He declares a man finds it, then sells all of his possessions to buy the field. The lesson is that when we find the kingdom of heaven, we are glad to leave everything else behind us. When we discover this treasure, an entire new world opens to us, and we gladly release old beliefs that no longer serve us. The late Cardinal Joseph Bernardin once said that when people ask him what heaven and the afterlife is like, he smiled to himself because he didn't know any more than they did. But he described an old memory he had. The first time he visited the homeland of his parents in northern Italy, he felt he had been there before. He said to himself, "I know this place. I am home." He believed crossing from this life to the next will be similar. We will be home. In the glossary of the Science of Mind, Holmes described heaven as a state of happiness, a real state of being. That is why Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." So we don't need to wait until our death to enter the kingdom. We can create it right here, every day, by the choices we make in how we live our lives and by remembering our oneness with the divine. The affirmation I'm going to read and have everybody repeat after me, and it's kind of long, so I'm going to divide it down. As I go within and acknowledge my oneness with spirit, I create my heaven on earth. As I go within and acknowledge my oneness with spirit, I create my heaven on earth. I remember that the kingdom of heaven is where I am. I remember that the kingdom of heaven is where I am. And I enter it every day when I live from a place of love. And I enter it every day when I live from a place of love.
So let's take a few moments just now to close our eyes and let go of any worries or concerns we've brought with us, and just allow the silence and the stillness to take us into that state that we know as heaven. In the presence of angels and spirit, or however you locate that deep inner peace. Like a stone that's tumbling down through the ocean, through the waves, until it softly lands on the ocean floor. Breathing deeply. And coming back. Woody, could we have another song, please?
I'm gonna play a song that Gene and I actually played together at Martin Luther King celebration. And the chorus is very easy to sing along with. The name of the song is You've Got to Love One Another. And the chorus sort of goes, find another to whom you can give. Find a brother with whom you can live. You've got to love one another. God is your brother. Love one another. Your brother is your sister. It's true. It always comes back to you. Cause comes back to you. In the train, I see no time to sit. Time is right now. We all know how to get it. I'm the brother to the got to love yourself. It's true. It always comes back to you. Make up your mind. It's time you cross that line. Counting on you. Kiss me. I'm in love. Brother, live. It's true. It always comes back to you. For a hand, it's time on our plan. Out from your west, it's time to stand and rest. Find a brother to whom you your sister is true. It always comes back to you. It always comes back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. What we're doing here is waving our fingers over our heads, the sign language for applause, and standing ovation. So to keep the energy flowing. Okay, so good morning to everyone. This is my first time ever dealing with the mask on and off, so thanks for being patient with me. Regarding masks, I feel so grateful to see so many faces and to see you online here joining us. Really appreciate the presence and the soul of this beautiful place and this beautiful community of New Thought. And what makes it possible for us to meet together in public like this is that everyone agrees to sit 6 feet apart and wear a mask. I know people have different feelings about that, but it really makes it possible for us to do this in person, which means a whole lot. So thank you so much. To know more about New Thought is that we are a center of like-minded individuals, I would say like-hearted, because maybe the only thing that I ever feel that's totally consistent is the feeling of love that we always generate when we're together and we share our goodwill and our good hearts. Every week we have different speakers and different musicians. So if something's not your flavor one week, come back because you'll definitely have a different assortment the next week. And Yeah, New Thought is what a community where we decided as a group to minister to each other, to recognize that we're all on spiritual paths. We're all souls here to evolve, to share our wisdom and knowledge and skills and experiences, and to help each other benefit from that. So many blessings. And with that, I really enjoyed that song so much. Would you care to share one more song?
Well, funny, you should ask.
I have a feeling you might have a few up your sleeve.
I want to play you a song that I wrote very recently. I was inspired. I'll bring a name here. I was inspired to write this song when I read a quote from a well-known. Now, you guys probably know that in most of the rest of the Western world, until relatively recent times, women were not really welcome to be the scholars in residence, and yet it didn't stop women from doing that. I found an amazing story that was written by Rivka Bas Meir Tickner, Menechet Rivka. She died in 1605. And I loved this story that she told. So I made it into a song and I added my own verses. It's called The Wisdom of Water. And I wrote this for years. I've actually been very grateful to have songs that I've written accepted in the celebration for the Martin Luther King gathering that happens in January, usually down at Old A. And I wrote this song for that also. But, you know, last year's song that I wrote, obviously we did not meet. And I wasn't aware, actually, there was a Zoom meeting about it. I had written, some water.
Are you sure? Just a moment. I'll be right back with it.
Thanks.
Glass.
My bad.
No worries at all. I love that women have been Jewish scholars, just kind of more in the background, but studying nonetheless. I remember Yentl, the movie,
Of course.
Barbara Streisand, of
There's
course.
a very famous woman, Bruria, who she and her sister were the daughters of the most famous rabbi of Vilna. And I think it was Vilna. And she was a scholar. And what are you going to do with that? You know, my grandmother also, my grandfather, my great grandfather was a teacher in Russia, Poland, Belarus today. And in the Jewish community, you are only a rabbi, which means my teacher, if the community says you are one. Thank you so much.
So you kind of have to prove yourself with your knowledge and your wisdom.
It's not about proving yourself. The community has to trust you. And the way they trust you is that they come up with the problem. Well, my chicken crossed the road and my neighbor's wagon rolled over it and he should have been looking. And what am I going to do with my chicken? I no longer have eggs. And if you feel like it's a serious enough thing, you can bring it to the rabbi and ask the rabbi for a decision. However, in Judaism, you're not allowed to shop for decisions. Whoever the rabbi is that you trust, he's the one you go and you ask for, what do I do? Who owes who? You know, you shouldn't have let your chicken out anyway. Everybody knows that the chicken should be in the coop, etc. So if you trusted someone to give a decision, and it's referred to as a responsa. If you trusted someone to give a responsa, then you also basically abided by it. Now, this put something on your shoulders so that you actually did not ask for responses unless you were willing to do them, which put a little bit of a break on whether you're going to ask for things or not. In turn, it also put a little bit of a burden on the rabbi. because rabbis never, ever would say things that were against the community's general ethos. In other words, you would never have a rabbi say, don't smoke cigarettes, even though it's bad for your health, because in reality, you must speak to the consensus of the community. And since there are going to be people who disagree with that, it's a violation of the consensus, because consensus is the hardest agreement to get. Because in a consensus, it's either this or this, and this is this. One person who says no, and you don't do it. That's how consensus works. If you've ever been in a consensus environment, it's very difficult to get consensus. So rabbis actually have to be conscious of that too. So they would never say, don't smoke cigarettes because it's bad for your health. However, when you're dealing with the chicken crossing the road, you can. That's how you got to be a rabbi. My great-grandfather was not a rabbi. He was a teacher in a cheder, a Jewish school. However, he was an honored person as a teacher, but he was actually never asked for responsa. My grandmother was the scholar in the family. She knew the Bible inside out. And yet, because she was a woman, that's as far as it went. And she actually, it's one of the reasons why she ran from the pogroms, but it's also one of the reasons why she left that environment. But even coming to the United States at that time when she came, women were not ministers. They were not rabbis. They were not priests. Women were kept out of this whole thing. And yet my grandmother was an incredible scholar. And, we all understood it because we went to her for understanding of Judaism. So this Rivka, also this kind of person, a song, The Wisdom of Water, with a reference to Martin Luther King. At the origin of fountain, precious dewdrops divine, nature's holy sign, source of all, cleansing pure, redeemed. As Martin wisely deemed, justice rolls down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. Found a well of water, drank along the path, but I became more thirsty, so I said in my heart, I will go and bring water to those who need, and I'll rejoice that they drink it, so pure and so clear. For the life of our years, for the breath of our days, raise our hands and our eyes to the heaven of praise. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Come and pour from a cup, drinking all those waters, fill it up to the brim, and rise to what you find within, flowing inside and out, filling up the length of our years, for the breath of our days. Raise our hands and our eyes to the heavens in praise. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And we found that the water was pure and was blessed. When you plunge your hand in, all you feel is caress, worth more than a bag of bright shiny gold to a parched thirsty man who's dry as a bone. For the length of our years, for the breath of our days, raise our hands and our eyes to the heavens in praise. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And we found that the water was good and was blessed. I like the water that is who we are, for we can change, but our substance stays the same. So let our minds flow free in our lives of every day. Water flows where it wants to, nothing stands in its way. For the length of our years, for the breath of our days, raise our hands and our eyes to the heavens and praise. Hallelujah,
Beautiful. The wisdom of water. As you were singing that, it made me think about, it really brought it alive, of the miraculous healing waters throughout the world. And that brings us to the part of the service called Miracles and Ordinaries. Some people say that life, I'm not sure who made the quote, but that you can live life either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. Einstein, there we go. So I'd like to invite anyone who would like to come up to the mic and share any kind of special miracle that's happened, something manifesting, or just a tap on the shoulder or a wink from the universe letting you know that everything is in perfect and divine order, or just an ordinary that you'd like to share with our community. Who would like to be first? Jeannie?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think mine's cut off here, Pasha. I can see there's my head now. Try to keep it. So this is not an easy thing to share, but I'm going to share it because I know I'm not alone. I have not been vaccinated yet. I'm extremely, extremely careful. And of course, I think probably my mind says, yes, do that. But every time I'm about to go get it, I get a lot of new information that says, just wait and see. You're being very careful. You're putting others in danger. I don't go out and about much. This is about it. Go to Costco. I'm well. So whatever your beliefs is. But this morning, my sister from North Carolina called me. She's a very, very spiritual woman. She's been at death's door many times. She's born again. And she and I both love Jesus. I love Jesus. I love all the high energies of the universe. But she said, Carl, there's 6 kids in my family. I'm the only one who hasn't been vaccinated. And I've been getting so much pressure. And she said, Carl called me to tell you you need to get vaccinated, and they're really worried about you. And I just feel that it's your body, and you get to choose. And of course, I might be in more danger. But then she shared with me, which she hadn't, that her husband in April got his second shot and got a nodule on his throat a week later and hasn't had a voice since April. And she knows a few other people. So I just, yesterday I was down at our new house. It was beautiful. Alan and I were masked. And they, why are you masked? We're masked because we haven't gotten the vaccine. And they freaked out. They like, oh, our children are masked. And they all put their mask on and they all ran around. And I felt like a leper. And after, I was so upset because I'm a very sensitive person and I always want to do what's right. And you might think I'm terrible because I haven't been vaccinated, but I'm masked. I'm not trying to get in your face. I just want to tell the other feelings that come up that I don't want to feel alienated. I want to do what's right. Of course, I love my fellow beings. I don't want to put anybody in danger, but it feels evil the way we're being separated. My family, we all love each other very, very much. And I think that was really beautiful that my sister called me and we prayed and to Jesus, because we know where our power lies in God. And she helped me so much. But I just wanted to share that many of us are suffering on many levels, and it's just another level where we're growing and changing, and I want us to all love each other no matter what our choices. And I don't know if that's a miracle or ordinary. I just had to share it.
I think it's a miracle that you're sharing it.
Actually. I know, because I don't want to be, I'm trying to be as open and as I can be. And I think we need to communicate with each other and just remember that we truly are, our beings, our essence, our love. And we need to love each other and honor each other and not call each other out like we're evil by any means, because we're being cautious. I'm just seeing how the things are playing out.
Thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability and so honestly. I really have been thinking about this as well, because I have friends who tell me they live on the East Coast and they tell me that they're being discriminated against if they haven't gotten the vaccine. And I have friends in Hawaii who tell me that they're being discriminated against if they have gotten the vaccine. And I think that each one lives their truth. We all have our own paths, and not letting it divide us, but sharing the love and our power and our strength and our energy, which overcomes all of the fear and the division. So I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. Okay, so now is the part of the program where I get to introduce you officially to Woody Plaut, there are many wonderful things to share about him, who's here to speak with us today about Judaism and Shabbat. And the first thing I found out about Woody is that he is an avid gardener who has been with his wife, Aviva, eating from the garden that they garden for over 50 years, which I think is just incredible. So that's a wonderful thing to hear. That you're a long-serving member of the community, that you've only very, very recently retired as a school librarian for different schools as of July 1st, and are in that curious place of figuring out, okay, now what? And you're here with us today, that you've been performing at the local interfaith Thanksgiving services, performing your music, creating an annual series of Roots concerts with each presenting a program of original songs, that you're from a family, a long tradition of rabbis, your father and your uncle and other relatives. And I'm going to read this from the introduction that you share with us. The Jews gave us the outside and the inside, our outlook and our inner life. We can hardly get up in the morning or cross the street without being Jewish. We dream Jewish dreams and hope Jewish hopes. Most of our best words, in fact, the concepts of new, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, and justice are the gifts of the Jews by Thomas Cahill. And that the Jews introduced to the world a radically new concept of reality. And now I'd like to introduce you without further ado, Woody Plaut, to share with us about Shabbat. Thank you.
I want to apologize for stopping in the middle of a song. I am known as a person who memorizes everything, but I got a concussion about 2 weeks ago. And I go in and out of remembering things, including people's names and words. And it was a real challenge for me to prepare for today, because normally this would be a piece of cake, but it's been difficult for me. I did spend a bunch of time writing anyway, because it seems like I can always write. I want to talk to you today about how the Jews understand time. Pardon if I read. Within the matrix of ancient religions and philosophies, life tended to be seen as part of an endless cycle of birth and death. Time was like a wheel, spinning ceaselessly. Prior to the rise of Judaism, people believed in life as a circularity. As such, we're born and we die, and the next generation comes along and repeats the process with the belief that life has no direction, but merely keeps reiterating itself. Man's life on earth was cyclical and predetermined. As we track the Bible story, it tells of an evolving sensibility of progress both in human thinking and in relationships among men and between man and God. Christian, Muslim, atheist, Jew, believer, each of us can look at Avram and seeing that had he not responded to what his God told him, Lech Lecha, go forth, when he left Ur to seek the land he will be shown, we would not be the people we are today. Now, the words Lech Lecha can also mean go forth into yourself. Maybe it's only at first that Avram has gone forth, both out into the greater world and inside within himself, to release him, to part with the comfortable life of knowns that he's left behind, and actively seek what are really the unknowns yet to be exposed. Avram sets off on a journey he has chosen to make, with no clear, prescient notion of where the journey will take him. He has faith in himself, founded on belief in himself, with no clear, discernible idea of where he will end up. Now, this is a direct break with cyclical behavior, because from this point forward, his life is a line, not a circle. It begins and goes forward into an uncertain future. Once he has done the inner work of self-discovery and self-discernment required to go forward into a brand new life, forward to a brand new land, it is then that he becomes ready to receive a new changed name from Avram to Avraham. With the inserted fifth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Hey, the letter that sounds like a breath, a wind, a spirit, and which implies a deeper awareness of the presence of awe, a deeper connection to spirit and soul,
a deeper connection to motherly kindness and compassion, and a deeper connection to not just himself, but to all of mankind, so that he can consciously pass down to all of us the wisdom of the journey, the here and now of living in the present going forward. His name changes from the man who's initially left the old behind solely for himself to a man who will be the father of multitudes for all heretofore and in the times to come. Abraham is a man who will continue to act in the present, making conscious decisions as life stretches out before him. Now, the ancient Jews saw time in a different way. For them, time had a beginning and an end. It was a narrative whose conclusion would come in the future. Thus, Jews introduced to the world a radically new conception of reality. Supplanting the aforementioned ancient view, the Bible teaches that the future is determined by our present actions. This being the case, human behavior is morally significant. Man is free to choose, and progress is possible. From this insight came a new conception of men and women as individuals with unique destinies, and our hopeful belief in social justice, the sense that tomorrow can be better than today. Our Bible thus introduces what we might call a modern sense of time, history, and the nature of human relationships. This revolutionary view directly enabled the writing of history. The Bible marks the first attempt to record the history of nations and individuals as it occurred, a chronicle of events and persons that was as factually accurate as its authors were able to make it. The events recounted within did indeed happen, at least in a broad outline, if not in every detail. The narrative records stories of real people embarking on an unprecedented intellectual adventure into the real world. The Israelites told their stories in real time, fixing them here on earth with some attempt at writing history, not myth, unlike the ancient Sumerians or the heroic tales of the Greeks and Romans and other civilizations of ancient times, who saw reality as the drama of eternity. The course of the Bible reflects this evolution of telling the historical stories of its protagonists. This is why it includes long lists of genealogies, though they often do not serve the narrative. These were real people who lived lives and had children, who had children, who had children, though we do not know anything else about some of them. One might ask, why include them in the writing? Why? Because they were real people, not a vehicle to move a story forward. The very patchwork nature of the scriptures, with conflicting norms and judgments, outright contradictions, and bald errors, betrays the same errant hand of human beings as one might expect from a history book written by man. A history based on the timeline of all that came before us as recorded in the stories of old, heretofore passed down by the oral tradition, before they were finally affixed in writing to parchment in what became the Bible. If we consider the importance of placing on this new view, we treat time as epitomized initially by Abraham's beginning on that journey to experience the unknown on the road that never ends, as a venture that has an ending that is not known. To this day, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism continue to live with that choice, certainly one of the most significant single choices ever made in history, one whose beginnings were shared at the roots of all the peoples of the book. Now, paired with that choice was the arbitrary, or some would say divine, decision to divide man's time into segments of 7 days per week. If you think about it, that division could have been 5 days or 9 days or 13 days or any number so chosen. However, what is important is not the number chosen, but the end cap, the last day, Shabbat, the Sabbath. The sanctification of this special day, a day that happens every seventh day, is not only unique to the aforementioned religions of the book, but it has been adopted by the whole world, as we clearly see. After all, the world's calendar is based on the 7-day week. Quote, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy is the fourth commandment. If one considers that ranking of the commandments denotes importance, this commandment is the first on the list that specifically commands us to actively do something. It commands us to divide time and thereby act in a specified way. The nature of dividing time tasks all to take personal responsibility for how we choose to partition that time. Though the three religions of the book share their origins, the Sabbath day is on Friday in the Islamic world, the Sabbath day is on Saturday in the Jewish world, and the Sabbath day is on Sunday in the Christian world. And the concept of the weekend is found throughout the whole world. Wherever you are in this world, we do not tend to work on whatever day our Sabbath is. The interesting thing is that if you are a person who has to work, you're aware that you're supposed to be taking off. Therefore, if you choose not to work, you are assuming the personal responsibility to decide to observe the Sabbath. If you are required to work, once again, you have chosen to not be responsible for that decision and that you have exceeded to do the work. For so many, there is a measure of commiseration in the fact that you are not with family and friends during the weekend if you are working. People who observe the Sabbath do not tend to take jobs that require work on that day, other than work that preserves life, i.e. nursing, EMTs, and other essential workers responsible for the same. Thus, built into the act of observing the Sabbath and keeping it holy is the personal responsibility of choosing to do it. Personal responsibility is at the core of all Western civilization, and so too, in some fashion, associated with every other value one would care to consider: sanctity, love, judgment, justice, humility, gratitude. Each of them in traditional Judaism is embodied in detailed laws, known collectively as the halakha, whose observance enables and thereby ensures the fulfillment of the named value, and ensures as well the essential continuity of the spiritual community. Shabbat is the unique miracle of cultural survival that keeps those laws. It is of note that to follow the rules of the Sabbath as observed by Jews, there are 39 melachot, types of work that you do not do when resting during the 24-hour period, as measured from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. If one grouped each unique type of work into similar activities, one would be that you could not create something anew, i.e. building, sewing, cutting. Another is that you can't prepare food anew, i.e. bake bread or cook a meal from scratch rather than eat leftovers. And one might not light a fire or do any kind of agricultural work except taking care of animals. In other words, the distinctive ritual behaviors associated with this day include the behaviors that Jews are enjoined to refrain from, and those are the actions that give the Shabbat meaning in traditional Jewish life. Non-Jews might consider that observing the Sabbath is a notion of a weekly interval of recreation and study. For an observant Jew, however, most manners of recreation are not allowed, and study by itself is not unique to the Sabbath, but rather something that should be done every day. The Shabbat is a day where you do things that you do not do during the regular week, and by doing them, you sanctify your actions because you are doing them uniquely on the Sabbath. For example, you're not supposed to turn on lights on the Sabbath, as it requires work on a lot of different levels, from the personal, where you have to create something new, light, or getting electricity to flow to perform some type of work. However, if your child cuts herself late in the afternoon and you need supplies from your bathroom where it's too dark to find what you need, you can turn on a light by slipping a sock over your hand and thereby sanctify your action of turning on the light. This action is sanctified because you have done it specifically to honor or respect the rules of the Sabbath, and because your normal action of simply turning on the light would have been something that you would have done regularly during the other 6 days of the week. The sanctification of actions is the determinative of what you do to separate habitual activities from the sacred. How we live within the construct of time has been shaped now for thousands of years and literally defines who we are as we live our lives. It provides us guidance so that we can live a better version of ourselves from day to day, and helps the world become a more dynamic and caring place for all of us. To quote noted author Thomas Cahill, the Jews gave us the outside and the inside, our outlook and our inner life. We can hardly get up in the morning or cross the street without being Jewish. We dream Jewish dreams and hope Jewish hopes. Most of our best words, in fact, new, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, person, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, justice, are the gifts of the Jews. I am happy to answer any questions or create a discussion heretofore.
Woody, could I ask you to go to the other microphone so that if someone has a question, they can come up and use this one?
Thank you, Barry.
Just before the other questions, because I was communicating with Woody prior to today's service with the PR and stuff, I learned a little more about this author he quoted. So I was just going to ask if you could maybe share a little bit more. What's special about this guy who you quoted?
Sometimes you read a book and it just connects with you and it explains things. And in some ways, it was more powerful that he was not Jewish. Thomas Cahill was, I believe, raised Catholic, but he spent 2 years in a Jewish seminary. And he's a historian. He wrote 7 books, actually, that he referred to as the hinges of history. And this particular book just grabbed me. It made sense to me, and I read it once, and I started using it in teaching when I would teach a lesson about Shabbat at the high school when I taught there years ago. Not as a religious thing, but as a very nature of how we assume certain things in our lives. We all have lived with the 7-day week the whole time we've been alive. And it's just been the way things are. But actually, it wasn't always like this at all. This is where it came from. It came from the 4th commandment. And the world took it on. What an interesting thing. And by taking it on, we took on personal responsibility, which I think is the single most important thing we as people have, being personally responsible for the choices that we make.
Hello. Something I also neglected to share is that Woody leads a very enthralling discussion group once a month on the Torah, where once a week on the Torah, where a little bit of reading happens and then a lively engagement and discussion comes alive. So I'd like to invite anyone who has Woody has a wealth of wisdom to share on Judaism. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask about Shabbat or the concept of time,
Or Judaism.
or Judaism, we welcome that. Please come to the mic and ask away.
I am no expert, but I've been doing this my whole life.
And could you say your name first, please?
Hi, my name is Amrita. I have a few questions. So I think, in yoga, the concept of samskaras and the cyclical repetition and the ability to break those patterns is much older than the Bible. So I was curious about your perspective on that.
Oh, I was just talking about history as something that's considered written. And I actually looked it up. The first written historian that was recognized was Herodotus. And he wrote in the 5th century BCE. And the Bible was written like 1300 BCE, long before. It's an interesting thing. I'm not sure I buy it necessarily. I got some of this from Kale. I don't think it's important to be first. Is it?
No, not in. I'm not. I'm more curious about the nature of the concept of time as before the book, like before there was written history, there was these concepts that then were like created into written history. So that like that predating the book, the traditions that um, like I don't know. Maybe I have to like.
You can
remember this
rephrase if
better.
you want.
I'll think about it. Never
Yes,
mind.
you're welcome to come back because I'm actually expecting you to come back and rephrase. You know, I'm a teacher. Once I've got you, you've got to produce.
So the idea of samsaras that we have certain patterns that repeat until we have the option to change the patterns or the opportunity to work through them. Is there something similar in Judaism? Is that a similar understanding that we have specific, maybe they're inherited by family or genealogy?
I'll give you an example. Over the years of being a Jew and participating in Jewish services, you end up learning the prayers by heart. But, the wise would tell you, read the prayers. Do not give them verbatim by heart, because when you read the prayers, sometimes words pop out that you didn't see before. It's similar to what you and I were talking about before. The study of the Bible is a fascinating thing. When I'm saying this from the standpoint of I'm an atheist, I've been an atheist my whole life, and yet I'm a very regularly practicing Jew. And the Bible is set in stone per se. Literally, the people who write Bibles, after every time they write the word God, they get up and take a shower. Thank you to the water department. And if they make a mistake, they might have to rewrite a particular parchment. It takes a year to write a Bible. There's specific, unique people who do this in profession. We've actually paid the Torah that we use here in this community is a Holocaust Torah. It was written about 350 years ago. It predates the Declaration of Independence, which is locked up in a temperature-controlled room, whereas we take ours out and use it regularly. And we've had to spend money and time repairing it because we use it regularly. But the Torah is a living document. And the reason I say it's living is even though the words are set in stone, literally, if you make a mistake, you have to rewrite because it has to be copied from one Torah to another, exact words. And you find in the Dead Sea Scrolls exact wording, no changes in any fashion. Part of what happens when you have a book that the words are set in stone is that what's changing is not the words. What's changing is you every time you read it, because you bring who you are at that time and what's going on around you. And it makes for fascinating study because you're reading a book. We read the Torah in our study group. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, is divided into 54 parshot, 54 divisions. We read one every week. And we started this during COVID because I had never read the whole Torah. This was my time. And you know where we started? We didn't start with the interesting stuff like Genesis. We started in the weeds of how do you build the ark, and the cubits, and we don't know what that word means, and where do we even find it out? And how do you actually weave the cloth to do this? And you know what? The fact that we actually got through that part when we finally rewarded ourselves reading one portion after another in order, when we finally rewarded ourselves with Genesis, like 25 weeks later, we actually knew how to do it. And it was fascinating that we actually went there. Well, now we've done a whole year and we're going back and rereading the exact same words again. And it's anew because the words are the same, but we aren't. What a fascinating thing. What a fascinating thing.
Thank you. Next question. I think I saw a hand over there. That's a no. No more questions? Rob?
Rob, you either have to speak into the microphone or someone else has to repeat what you say so the live stream people know what the question is. Are you comfortable coming up here?
I am returning gradually from eternity. Gradually to returning from eternity. I'm on the edge of reality now that I'm standing here. And Woody, I think that Sunday, try rest applies. Try rest. Give your body and mind a chance to rejuvenate, like Joshua the young. Rejuvenate. Try rest. It's sacred to rest. If we lose our ability to rest unless we take the seventh day seriously, the one thing that stands up for this spiritual sacred day is healing on Sunday. Healing on Sunday. That's what my exception is for my standing here. Healing on Sunday. Because it's not work. It's not work. Healing on Sunday can take place any day because it's not work as defined. It's the opposite of work. I'm through.
Thank you so much, Rob. Actually, Woody, you were just sharing about this before the service.
I was going to bring that up.
Great.
So say
Please go ahead.
No, ask your question.
Well, you talked about the value of stopping
Right.
and Shabbat.
Right.
And
so, in all my various pursuits of finding out how to be the better person and be the more spiritual being, I came across stop exercises, and stop exercises are one of the most valuable things we do, and we've got built into our lives. And that stop exercise is the Shabbat. When you stop, that means you stop. And when you stop, it's a tremendously powerful thing, both in the stopping itself and in the storing of energy. And it leads to when you start again and you get to release your energy in a very controlled and directed way if you choose to. It's a very powerful thing. When I first learned this, I was actually I was given an exercise, not a Jewish exercise, an exercise in stopping. It said the next time you go into the bathroom to brush your teeth, use your opposite hand. And all of a sudden, you go from the habitual of brushing with your right hand to brushing with your left, and you've done a stop exercise right then. There are lots of different types of stop exercise, but Shabbat, boy, it's baked into the whole world. It's an amazing thing. This is an amazing thing. I wanted to talk about this because to me, it's one of the most amazing things that we have in this life, that we have a built-in stop exercise that everybody in the world has acknowledged. Wow. Yay.
And by that, do you mean Sundays?
I said, Friday for the Muslims, Saturday for the Jews, Sunday for the Christians, and the whole world has weekend. The whole world does weekend.
Can you share with us another song, please?
Apologize, Jeannie, you've heard all of these. This is a song I wrote during COVID, and it really directly talks about being on the journey. But it also references in my own mind how many people we have lost during this time. I am very affected by the number of friends that I've lost during this time. So I wrote a song about this called Rest in Peace. Gonna go home, rest in peace. Watch these fly south Excuse me. This is my foggy brain. I'm just going to read. I don't do this normally, but I apologize. I will read my song. We're gonna go home, rest in peace. Watch these fly south. Patches of time, stitch these flies. We'll go home, rest in peace. Join in with our brethren. Some are here and some are probably an old time. Walking down the well-tried path, and the family together. Breaking the holy bread, we haven't shared since that time. Go home, rest in peace. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Everyone come here. Go home, this one. Rest in peace. We'll go home all as one. Rest in peace. As our steps stretch out before us, looking back, still can see all the lessons of a lifetime. Finding out so gracefully, there's a bright light shines above us. We've just begun, and we'll all the warmth of the breeze. We'll go home, rest in peace. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Everyone come together. Go home. Go home, all is one. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. We'll go home, all is one, and rest in peace.
Beautiful. Thank you. If you'd be willing to play a little more guitar music, it's now time for the offertory. So we have, how we do it now with the COVID era is we have the donation bowl, and it's a love offering. It's what's in your heart that you'd like to give, send out to the universe, support New Thought, help us with the electricity and the running of our programs. But also, if you just want to deposit a blessing or send it out to the universe, you're welcome to do that too. So please just come up one at a time. Thank you. announcements. Coming up at New Thought Center of Hawaii, we have Sunday services at 10 a.m. every Sunday. You can attend in person or watch live stream. You can check the website for the link to New Thought channel for the YouTube channel. And free childcare has returned. It's really fun to be a kid here. I can tell they're having way more fun than the rest of us. Okay, for the next 2 Sundays, we meet in person with safety rules. And next week, I will be presenting on how I cured myself of a life-threatening illness and the lessons that I learned about living in the moment from that. And inviting you all to join me. On the week following, 8/22, is Pomakai, who's going to tell us what happened here 11 years ago and what it took to buy a home for New Thought Center. She has the history and the wherewithal and all of that. On the 29th of August, we have Manuel Roberto on John Mastrami, the birthday of Krishna, music by Bernice. And that's always a very special sacred event, like a puja to Krishna. Monthly events, the first Sunday of every month, we have a pre-service healing meditation with the crystal bowls, 9 to 9:30 a.m. by donation. And the last Sunday of the month, we have produce giveaway. So extra abundant fruit and avocados, star fruit, bananas, anything that you would like to share from your land or to take home with you from the community is here on the last Sunday of the month. There's a service opportunity for volunteers needed for the 50th Jubilee Planning Group. And also Sunday service volunteers, we always welcome facilitators, greeters, tech support, produce giveaway, etc. If you'd like to be on the mailing list to receive the weekly e-newsletter, sign up on the website www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com. And you can also find New Thought Center info on Facebook and on Dolphin Podcasts, our local community bulletin board. Thank you. And now I think it's time for us to, normally we would circle up, but when we sing our closing song today, we'll be singing Yes, There Is Peace on Earth. And we'll be standing in a circle, but still maintaining the 6 feet between each other. So if you'd like to stand up, and we'll sing a New Thought version of Let There Be Peace on Earth. That is, yes, there is peace on earth, and we're affirming it and living it now. And if you want to lead us in.
So we stay in our positions, don't move.
Oh, not circle?
No,
Okay.
it's all mentioned out and some people.
Okay, well, we'll stay in our positions and we'll sing, Yes, There Is Peace on Earth. Should we do it a cappella or with guitar?
I'm not with you. Just acapella.
A cappella, okay, let's find a good key.
Guitar, I'll follow.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. As we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me, and this is the moment now. With every breath I take, yes, this is my joyous vow. To take each moment, live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Enjoy every moment. Aloha.